Well, it looked good for a little while. Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football, breaking down USC. We got Matt Lowry on the line from Conquest Chronicles on SB Nation. Please join him and the rest of the staff there. And of course, if you love college football, this is your place to be. Like, comment, share the videos, and subscribe. Matt, how you doing today?
I'm doing pretty good. Just couldn't believe what we were watching last night in last night's game. I like we were talking about. There was a lot of recruits who were there. Just a game that we're still trying to unpack, just trying to figure out on what went wrong.
Yeah, I certainly thought it was going to be a much better game than it turned out to be. USC got off to an excellent start, 10-0 touchdown drive. The first time they get their hands on the ball, made Justin Herbert not look so good. His first handful of passes, and again got out to the 10-0 lead. And then it seemed as though the momentum of the game shifted on the Keaton Slovis interception, with USC driving once again around midfield. He threw an errant ball. I'm trying to remember, went off of somebody's hands. I think it might have been Drake London's hands.
Yeah, it was Drake London's hands.
And popped up into the air, intercepted, brought back, and then that got Oregon jump started.
Yeah, USC just had all of the momentum going forward. They were moving the ball very well, and it seemed like USC was on its way to another promising drive. Now, on a third down, when they went with a reverse play, I believe it was a reverse play to the Pittman that ended up getting stuffed in the backfield. That's where we were like, well, what's going on? But USC was still in firm control based off of how they were playing defense. And then you had the interception, which London goes up with one hand. It tips off of London's hands, hangs in the air, and it gets picked off. And from there, Oregon scores, and just that's where everything just unpacks from there. Everything just unfolds from there. I believe Oregon scored 21 straight points off of turnovers, and it was just one thing after another. You had the interceptions, then you had the fumble that led to a touchdown, and then you had the pick six. Next thing you know, USC is down 20, it is down 11, and they just could never regain momentum from there.
Yeah, and certainly an issue with USC at this point is with the loss of all the running backs. It was always going to be a pass-heavy approach. Once they went to the quote-unquote air raid, it was going to be like a 60-40, 70-30 approach, but you have to run the ball to some extent, and obviously they're down to their fourth and fifth running backs, although Keenan Kristen had a pretty nice effort at 15 for 79 all told, but they really had to go pass happy because of the approach, because of the running back situation. But then also once you get behind, and 57 passes is rarely a formula for success. Slovis hits on 32 of 57 for only 264. So that is not much impact out of 57 pass attempts, 264 yards, and he was picked off 3 times.
Yeah, the thing about it too is just, I think with two of the interceptions that he had, one where it got tipped in the air, and the other was where he was trying to hit, I believe it was Tyler Vaughns. He was trying to hit Tyler Vaughns, and Tyler Vaughns just trips. He gets tripped up. That led to his third pick. The second one, he was just staring down. He stared down his receiver, and Brady Breeze just read it all the way and returned it for 6. But it looked like Slovis was staring down his receivers a lot. It looked like he took a long time going through his reads, and I think that's where the fumble happened too. But I don't know if you've noticed that, Mark, but it looked like Slovis was taking a long time. He was just staring down one receiver. Then he moved on to the next one. And I don't know, to me, it looked kind of unusual from what I've seen in past games from him.
Got Matt Lowry on the line from Conquest Chronicles, breaking down USC football following a disappointing effort at the Coliseum. USC's first loss at home this season, 56-24 after a 10-0 lead against Oregon. The Ducks in prime position to compete for a college football playoff appearance, and they've taken hold of the North Division. USC relinquishes the South Division lead to Utah. Of course, we talked about that situation going into the weekend, hoping that Utah would go to Washington. They were down 11 in that game, came roaring back. And so Utah now 5-1 in the Pac-12. USC drops back to 4-2. So they need some help now, still holding the tiebreaker straight up against the Utes. But Utah is going to be pretty heavily favored, it appears, the rest of the way, while USC's got a decent date, a difficult one at Arizona State against the Sun Devils group that's going to be well rested. The defensive effort, your thoughts there? Justin Herbert only had to put it up 26 times. And as I mentioned off the top, he did not look at his first 5 passes. He off, and suddenly it clicked for him. And he was the NFL prospect we all expect him to be. And they were off and running on the offensive side, too.
Yeah, I think it was very reminiscent of the Notre Dame game from a few weeks ago, where they flustered, where just they kind of flustered Herbert. They just weren't that nothing was clicking offensively for Oregon. They were starting slow. And that's what USC needed. They needed that. It's just when the defense does this, the offense then again, they don't get the necessary points up. As I've mentioned, they ended up having to punt once. Then they got the interception from Isaiah Pola-Mao, who ended up getting ejected from the game from a questionable targeting call. But you had the interception that sets him up in great position, ended up with a field goal there. These are opportunities where USC was in the red zone a numerous amount of times, and they only came away with 10 points, where USC could have either easily came away with at least, and I think I was telling Dina this, that USC could have easily came away with 21, anywhere between 21 to 28 points. I honestly felt USC could have came away with that much in the first half, but again, failing to capitalize in the red zone, and then the defense just they couldn't get anything going. Also, it didn't help that the amount of penalties continue Oregon's drive, but once Oregon got momentum, it was hard to stop.
Talking USC football, we got Matt Lowry on the line from Conquest Chronicles, SB Nation. USC goes down to Oregon 56-24. The Trojans now 5-4 overall and fall with their second loss, 4-2 in the Pac-12, and relinquish control of the division to Utah winner at Seattle against the Huskies. USC's got a date against Arizona State coming up this Saturday. I guess on a bright note, late in the game, Kyle Ford, the much ballyhooed freshman recruit, catches his first touchdown pass of his career as a USC Trojan.
Yes, he does. He's been seeing playing time recently. He just recovered from an ACL injury, a torn ACL that he suffered in high school. It was very good to see him play, especially seeing him play last week, and it was very good to see him get that first touchdown of the season. Also, Drake London getting his first touchdown of the season, and as he's starting to emerge. So it's some very promising pieces for USC at the wide receiver spot, and that's not even counting Brew McCoy, who's going to sit out for the remainder of this season. We have yet to really see what he could do and we'll be able to see that, I'd say, next season. So it's very promising at the wide receiver spot for this Trojan team, especially with Keaton Slovis and how the way he's looked. But this game was more of a where is he at type of thing. And I don't know, you saw a lot of promising stuff, and then you saw a lot of low points or true freshman moments that's really hampered them.
Now it's back on the road to take on Arizona State. USC got its first road win of the season the previous week at Boulder against Colorado. Jaden Daniels and company, 11 touchdowns, 2 picks, 61% completion percentage. Eno Benjamin, one of the best backs in the Pac-12, 7 touchdowns. And Brandon Ayuk, who makes plays in the kick return game and also is a wide receiver with 38 catches. That appears to me to be a toss-up game for USC against Arizona State. Any early thoughts on that one, Matt?
given the way how USC's been performing on the road, you've mentioned this is a toss-up game because for USC, we've mentioned last week was a big game for them. They end up getting blown out of that game while Utah comes back and wins. Um, right now, the focus for USC is just winning out right now. It's a matter of winning out, and you're playing to to better your bowl opportunities because right now USC is trying to reach bowl eligibility. They win next week, they get into a bowl game, which was something that they failed to do last year. So it comes down to that game against ASU. It's still a game. It's still a big game that they have to win. But not only that, but you don't know what could happen with Utah. Now, I don't envision Utah losing at any point, but you don't know what can happen if Utah slips up and if USC wins out. USC's going to Santa Clara playing with another date against Oregon. But we at this rate, it's for USC. You're just playing for better bowl opportunities. You're playing for bowl eligibility next week. Now it's going to be a tough game on the road where you don't play well against an ASU team who is going to be well rested, as you mentioned, and also they've been playing well under Herm Edwards. They've been playing hard and they've been playing well. So this is where USC has to step up, and if they don't step up here, then who knows what could happen moving forward.
For Utah, they've got UCLA at home coming up this Saturday. The Bruins playing much better as of late. They go on the road to Arizona. Arizona's just coming off a loss against Oregon State, who's a better club than they've been for quite a while, but still losing to Oregon State. Arizona on the road, and then Colorado. That has been Utah's designated rival of sorts in the Pac-12 South Division in recent years. So that has been the last game of the season for them. So again, UCLA, Arizona on the road, and Colorado, the 3 days for Utah, which appears to be heading toward a Pac-12 championship game. But we see upsets in college football every week. For USC, it's Arizona State on the road, it's Cal on the road, it's UCLA to close out 2019. So USC will probably be a slight favorite in those games, but not by a whole lot. I just looked at the ESPN Power Index percentage, 54-46 in USC's favor against Arizona State, even though that's a road game. So at 5-4, as you mentioned, one more win gets you to bowl eligibility, something that was not accomplished last year at 5-7. Has to be taken into consideration playing with the third string quarterback at this point and all the injuries suffered across the board at the running back position and all over the defense. At the same time, Clay Helton moving into year number 5. Of course, he stepped in near the end of 2015. There are starting to be swirls. You know, Urban Meyer being on the market, obviously, everybody's going to get excited about that. They're talking about him at Florida State as well. But beyond that, there's some more serious talk or speculation about guys like maybe the guy on the other sideline a few weeks back that's winning the division, Kyle Whittingham, Matt Wells, who's gone to Texas Tech, Matt Campbell at Iowa State. I don't know, Matt, if you've heard speculation about any legitimate names on who could replace Clay Helton, because my thought was if they hold their ground going into the Oregon game or Utah loses and they lose, but they get to the Pac-12 championship game, it's awfully hard to fire a coach, even if the record's not quite what USC standards are after a conference championship game appearance. But that appears as though that's going by the wayside. If they finish 6-6 following 5-7, maybe they show him the door and they start the search.
Yeah, so as you mentioned, right now, obviously it's Urban Meyer. That's choice number one. There has been some names, and you mentioned Kyle Whittingham was a name that was mentioned. Mario Cristobal, who surprisingly has been mentioned. Franklin, who's also James Franklin from Penn State, he's been mentioned as well. But recently, and I don't know why this name has been popping up recently, but Bob Stoops has been in the rumor mill for quite some time. Bob Stoops' name has popped up quite a few times. Now, whether that happens or not, I don't know. I do know Bob Stoops, who is currently coaching in the XFL for, I believe, the Dallas Renegades right now. He's mentioned that he would like to get back into college football, and if that is a thing, I could see that if Urban Meyer doesn't happen, or that could be a surprise where Bob Stoops is hire number one, is interview number one. If depending, but I think right now they're targeting Urban Meyer. It all depends on what the new athletic director is looking for, which right now we're hearing that's Mike Bond at this moment, which is expected to be announced tomorrow from what's being reported on Friday. But yeah, Bob Stoops' name has popped up quite a few times from what I've seen.
Clay Helton made the comment after the Oregon game last night that he is still the right man and the right fit for this job at USC. Trojans go down to the Ducks 56-24. Arizona State is next. They no longer have control of the division. That belongs to Utah, and we will see how the rest of the season plays out. And, of course, Clay Helton's fate. Matt Lowry on the line from Conquest Chronicles. I encourage you to jump over there, check out the information, the insight, and the previews of all the games there on SB Nation. Again, it's Conquest Chronicles. Matt, we appreciate you stopping by.
Thank you for having me on.
Okay, Matt.